The goofball who usually cracked jokes while smashing down walls was gone. Instead, Chip stood before the lens, his expression shattered, signaling the end of an era. In 2017, Fixer Upper wasn't just a show, it was a cultural phenomenon averaging 17 million viewers. They had the world at their feet and a retail empire in their pocket. Yet, amidst the deafening applause, they pulled the emergency brake. The silence that followed was instant and terrifying. Why incinerate a winning lottery ticket? The tabloids filled the void with venom. They claimed the marriage was rotting from the inside, or that a massive scandal was about to break. But the headlines screaming about a medical crisis were closer to the bone than anyone realized. Behind the perfect farmhouse aesthetic, Joanna was fighting a battle the cameras missed. The grueling 11-month filming schedules had eroded their reality, and the physical and mental toll was becoming undeniable. Chip realized that continuing the show didn't just mean more money, it meant losing the one thing he couldn't rebuild. He didn't just cancel a contract, he staged an intervention for his own life. But the threat they were running from was far more dangerous than simple exhaustion. Before we expose the betrayal that nearly destroyed them, don't forget to press that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's begin. To understand the severity of the crash, you have to understand the height of the pedestal. Chip and Joanna weren't just TV hosts, they were the guardians of the American dream. They sold us a vision where shiplap could fix a broken home and love conquered all. We binged the episodes, bought the magazines, and envied the farm life. But the lens of a camera is a filter, not a mirror. It deleted the stress and broadcast the fairy tale. Off air, the walls were closing in. Fame had painted a target on their backs, and the ammunition was coming from their own past. Just as the couple reached the summit of their success, the ground beneath them turned into a trap. In April 2017, two men, former best friends and business partners, filed $1 million lawsuit that hit the tabloids like a bomb. They accused Chip of fraud, claiming he manipulated them into selling their shares of Magnolia Realty for pennies mere days before the HGTV deal went public. The couple wasn't just facing burnout, they were facing a mutiny. And the first arrow struck from the place they least expected. Their names were John Lewis and Richard Clark. These weren't anonymous corporate raiders. They were Chip's groomsmen-level friends who had founded Magnolia Realty with him in a tiny Waco office. For a decade, they were a brotherhood. But according to court documents, that brotherhood ended with a text message that sounded less like the lovable goofball America adored and more like a mob boss. The betrayal centered on a single suspicious timeline. Lewis and Clark alleged that Chip convinced them Magnolia was less than worthless, buying their shares for a pitiful $2,500 each. 2 days later, he announced the HGTV deal that would turn that worthless company into a multi-million-dollar gold mine. The friends felt gutted, claiming Chip had insider knowledge and played them for fools. When they pushed back, the shucks ma'am demeanor vanished. Chip allegedly fired off a text warning Lewis to tell Rick to be careful, adding that he didn't come from a nerdy prep school and that people who crossed him get their asses kicked. The media devoured the drama. Suddenly, the man building dream homes was painted as a ruthless shark who would cannibalize his best friends for a paycheck. Chip tried to maintain the happy warrior facade on set, but behind the scenes, he was fighting a war on his own front porch. He was winning in the ratings, but losing his reputation. Yet this million-dollar legal brawl was only a skirmish. The enemy was about to shift fire from his wallet to his soul. The real attack was about to come for their beliefs. In November 2016, the digital pitchforks came out. While the legal battles threatened their bank account, a BuzzFeed expose aimed directly at their character. A reporter had investigated the couple's place of worship, the Antioch Community Church, and unearthed old sermons from their pastor, Jimmy Seibert. Seibert hadn't just preached on traditional marriage, he had vocally opposed same-sex marriage and advocated for conversion therapy, calling homosexuality a lifestyle caused by abuse. The report didn't accuse Chip and Joanna of saying these things, but it demanded to know if they agreed. Suddenly, the internet exploded. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like. It's free and really helps the channel grow. Oh, by the way, I will be posting more videos like this, so please subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another deep dive from me. The backlash was instantaneous and nuclear. The comments section of every Fixer Upper post turned into a war zone. Critics labeled the couple hateful and demanded HGTV cancel the show immediately. Chip and Joanna were trapped in a public relations nightmare. If they disavowed their pastor, they would betray their religious base. If they defended him, they would be torched by the mainstream media. They chose silence, hoping the storm would pass. Instead, the void filled with rage. For Joanna, the shift was devastating. She wasn't a political activist, she was a designer. Now she was being branded a monster. The online vitriol soon bled into the real world. Hate mail flooded their inbox, and legitimate security threats began to surface. Their sanctuary in Waco no longer felt like a home. It felt like a fortress under siege. The walls were closing in. But while the internet screamed, a silent crisis was unfolding behind closed doors. The diagnosis didn't come from a doctor, but the symptoms were lethal. It wasn't cancer. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a total systemic collapse. Joanna later exposed the truth. She felt like she was dying inside. She was trapped, a prisoner in the very dream she had built. The schedule was a grinder. They were filming 11 months a year, raising growing children, battling lawsuits, and absorbing the vitriol of hate mobs. Joanna's body finally hit the emergency brake. She described a suffocating fog, a lack of energy so profound she would come home and blankly stare at the walls. She wasn't present for her kids. She was a ghost in her own house. Chip saw the light go out in her eyes. He recognized that the happy warrior facade was crumbling. He realized that the millions in the bank meant nothing if he lost his wife. The conclusion was terrifying but clear. Fixer-upper was no longer a blessing. It was a carcinogen. It was a poison slowly killing their family dynamic. They had to cut it out. They had to perform radical surgery on their own lives before the damage became permanent. The meeting with network executives was the turning point. In Hollywood, you don't quit a hit show. You write it until the wheels fall off. The network panicked. They pushed a blank check across the table, offering astronomical raises and modified schedules. They begged. But Chip didn't blink. He looked the executives in the eye and said no. He told them they needed to catch their breath. The industry was baffled. Insiders called them ungrateful, whispering that walking away from the highest-rated show on cable was career suicide. But the couple ignored the noise. They finished the final season, turned off the lights, and went home. For the first time in half a decade, the cameras stopped rolling. The sudden silence in the farmhouse was jarring, but it was the medicine they needed. They poured their energy back into their children and focused on repairing the cracks in their foundation. They chose their sanity over their celebrity, proving that success is worthless if it costs you your soul. But here is the twist. They didn't just walk away to disappear. They were stepping back to gain leverage. They weren't quitting the game. They were preparing to own it. Silence wasn't their retirement. It was their strategy. While the public mourned the end of Fixer Upper, Chip and Joanna were quietly orchestrating a massive pivot. They didn't just want a new contract. They wanted the keys to the kingdom. In a historic power move that stunned industry titans, they returned not as employees, but as bosses, launching the Magnolia network entirely on their own terms. They realized they never hated making television. They hated being owned by it. The difference was control. Chip's instinct to shield Joanna from the looming diagnosis of complete burnout was the most critical decision of their careers. By rejecting the industry's insatiable demand for content, he saved the only thing that truly mattered, their marriage. They chose each other over the audience. That radical prioritization is exactly why they are still standing today, while the wreckage of so many other reality TV couples litters the roadside. By walking away, they didn't just save their sanity, they secured their legacy.